You're listening to a podcast from 702.
702.
Family Matters.
On our Family Matters feature this morning, I want us to talk about fathers ahead of Father's Day on Sunday and why they just equally matter. It's very important for us to shed light on the valuable contributions our fathers bring to the family dynamic, right? They also play a vital role in shaping their children's identities and fostering emotional connection, providing guidance, serving as role models. So it's important to recognize and appreciate the unique qualities that fathers bring on the table, physically and emotionally, because their impact goes beyond providing financial support, right? It's crucial for society, for all of us to recognize and value the importance of fathers. And I want you to share your relationship with your father and how it's shaped you. Why don't you give me a call, please, on 011-883-0702 or send me a WhatsApp voice note on 072-702-1702. What impact did your relationship with your father have in your life? What positive attributes did they bring on the table? How were you impacted by that relationship with your dad? I'll take those calls and the WhatsApps. Let me introduce you to the guests who will be guiding us through this conversation. Dr. Garth Japhet, who is the CEO of Heartline, which is a social change organization. Thank you so much, Garth, for making time, for coming in. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks so much.
Merrishia Singh Naicker is a counsellor and family therapist as well, joining us also from Heartlines. Merrishia, thank you for also making time.
Thank you, Clement, and good morning to our listeners as well.
And I want to start with you, Merrishia. What role do fathers play in a child's development and just overall well-being?
Like you already mentioned, such a vital role. It's crucial for dads just to be present and active and positively present. So when we think about it, we think, okay, dads just, like you said, financial, maybe they do that, maybe they discipline every now and then. But if dads are able to be actively, positively present in their lives with their children, we see such an amazing relationship take place, where children are more just settled in who they are, just gaining a sense of self-confidence, self-esteem. So their mental well-being is really affected in a positive way. Then also their relationships for later on in life. If they have a good, strong, positive relationship with their dad, they are able to form good, secure attachments because of that secure attachment that they've had with their dad. So it's vital for, they also for their physical growth. So when you think of a baby, often you think, okay, moms need to cuddle and hold their babies close. But we found that, if dads do it as well, it helps babies thrive. It helps them grow. It even helps them just become, for both the dad and the baby, the love hormone, oxytocin, just makes that bonding come closer. So there's so many different ways that it impacts the dad in a positive way and the children as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And Garth, I love how the role of fathers has evolved over the years. We grew up knowing fathers to be, this is the role they bring on the table, and these are strict. When mama can't discipline, go to the father. And then that changes the dynamic in the relationship as well. But now, I'm so happy to see fathers that are so heavily involved, that also bring in, the other qualities that historically we've never associated with what a father brings on the table. Talk to me about Fathers Matter, because that's one project you've been involved in and what you guys are trying to do with fathers and what you have observed during this program.
Thanks, Clement. Yeah, I've been involved in this type of work for like 30 years. I started Soul City and ran that for many years and dealt with lots of different issues over time, HIV, gender-based violence. I've never come across an issue that affects more people across every age group, every race or economic thing than this one, the issue of dad. And what we as Heartlines did to start this about 4 years ago was that we went out there to understand why fathers are not present. 60% of kids in this country are growing up without their biological fathers.
Sure.
And it's one of the highest, if not the highest in the world. And we know there's historical reasons for that. But the general comment about dads is that they're deadbeat dads. They're not interested. They're not keen. And the research that we did, which was just trying to understand what was going on, and the vast majority of men want to be involved in their kids' lives. But the number 1, 2, and 3 issue is money, is that it's deeply seated in every culture that you as a man are a provider.
Yeah.
And if you can't provide, you can't be present. And I love a quote that came out of our research, which a woman said, if he can't bring money into this house, I don't need another child here. So this concept that it's just men, there are lots of barriers, and this perception that he must provide. And in a country where there's such huge unemployment, that's a massive barrier. The other quick ones are, skills. If you haven't been fathered yourself, how do you father? Or as you were saying, this traditional role that now suddenly you've got to be a different type of dad.
Yeah.
And then, just some of the cultural issues around also keeping men away from their kids. Inhlawulo, the damages, lobola in some cultures, all comes back to money. So I think, this is something that we as a country, have got to really start to talk about, because although if I said to you, does a mother matter in the life of a child? You say, look, don't be stupid. Of course they do. If I said to you, does a father matter? You might say, well, maybe.
Yeah.
And actually, as Merrishia was saying, the evidence is so clear that having an active, positive male role model, not necessarily just the dad, is vital to the health of our children and our society.
Yeah. And Garth, what role are we talking about when we talk about the presence of a dad? Because you may have a dad listening to us and saying, well, I send 5,000 rand every month, for instance, to my child. I've taken my child to university. Surely that's sufficient? Because for them, that financial contribution has been a sign of care, a sign that I'm present, but emotionally they've not really been.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, you speak to any child or even an adult, and you say, what did you most want from your dad? And the last thing is money. I wanted him. I wanted him to be present. I wanted him to affirm me. There's something deep in us that requires our Father's blessing. Is you're good enough? You are worthy enough, and so, there's this concept that you can be, as you were saying, you can be present but absent. You can be physically present or financially present but emotionally absent.
Yeah.
And it's the emotional presence which is what children want.
Yeah.
They want you just to show up and be around, to be involved, be interested.
And Merrishia, how does this father-child relationship differ from the mother-child relationship, and why are they both important? Because sometimes we've gotten to a stage, and I think, Garth, where it's normal to hear that, oh no, I don't know who my dad is. It's no longer shocking anymore, because as you say, over 60% of children growing up without. But when someone is a mom, it's almost like, then you're still fine. So talk to us about the importance of these two roles at play and the bigger contribution in the child's life, child nurturing.
Okay, so absolutely, both roles are so important, the role of a dad and a mom. And what's important to note is that we've often been socialized into a mom should be this way and a dad should be this way. And this is what we've talked about, that the dad must be that ATM dad, the one that provides financially. And as Heartlines, we wanted to change those stereotypes, that dads can also be affectionate. Dads can also be loving. They can also be caring and compassionate. And what's important is that when children receive that, they receive that not just from only one person, which we say, okay, moms should be doing that. But it's more beneficial when a child is able to receive that from multiple role models. And so why not from a dad as well? Because when children are able to be affirmed by a dad, like Garth has said, or when they're able to know that their dad really cares about who they are and what they want to do in life, and is present in playing with them, in laughing with them, in, tickling them, they are able to gain a sense of, I'm important as a person. And so, again, it's reinforced. The message that they may be getting from their mom is reinforced by their dad. But also, dads are able to, in a way, provide a role model for how relationships should be. So if the dad is an active, positive dad, a child could see, okay, this is the way I need to relate to a woman. This is the way I need to relate to how I show respect. And sometimes when that is absent, when that's not shown and that's not shown in the examples that a child sees, they then learn, okay, how should I do this? And then fulfill that in harmful ways. So it's important for fathers to be present. And what's important, we say that children must do as I say, but they really do as you do.
Yeah, actions speak louder than
yes,
words.
Absolutely.
Right? Garth, I want us to talk about the support system for fathers. On the show a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about what often happens when women have to give birth. Often they would go and stay at home, or they'll bring in an elder to come be with them in the days or months leading up to them giving birth. Because part of the thing is you need the support system, you need to be given the skills. This is what you should do. But that's never the case for fathers. It's almost like, well, the child is born. Garth, just do what you can. So what resources and support systems are available for fathers who may be struggling with their roles and responsibilities? Because there's not a lot of focus on arming them with the skills to be good fathers, present fathers who are not just financially involved.
Yeah, that's a thing is that, I have 2 kids and there was no, you're suddenly changing nappies now. I don't know how to change a nappy. I had to learn. But I think the reality is that there's a lack of resources. And also, even though it's not illegal for men to be part of the antenatal process and in the birth process, in most of our hospitals, men are actively kept away. And the evidence, again, is very clear that actually if a man is involved in that early process of not just the antenatal but birth and thereafter those first 6 months or whatever, they're likely to be present through the child's life. So the resources are there are now quite a lot of organizations are beginning to understand that we need to support men. Heartline has set up what we call a Fathers Matter coach, which is a WhatsApp platform. You can sign up and then you get weekly messages depending on the age of your child to encourage you, to point you in different directions for where to get resources. And uniquely, it's actually got a chat GPT function behind it.
Oh.
So you can actually ask questions around, what do I do if my kid's on drugs or whatever? And it's all on WhatsApp. So we're launching that. You can get more information off our website of fathersmatter.org.za. But just quickly before I forget this, I think it's really important to say that women do the most amazing job of bringing up kids, and they bring up balanced, amazing kids. So this is not about saying single mothers, you're not good enough. It's about saying, actually, if men are more present and more active, it's good for women. It's good for kids and it's good for men themselves.
Yeah.
And the evidence is so clear around the risks associated with not having positive male role models. In the US, and it's the same here, over 90% of people in jail for violent crime come from father-absent families. So we look at things like GBV, we look at issues of crime in our country and violence. Those are getting men, not necessarily the biological father, to, and getting women to understand that it's important to try and get more men involved in your kids' lives is good for everyone.
Yeah. So what impact did your relationship with your father have in your life? Give me a call on 011-883-0702. How were you impacted by your relationship with your dad? And maybe you are a present and active dad yourself. How do you think that has impacted on your child's life? Please share your inputs with us. Let's start with some WhatsApp voice notes coming through on 072-702-1702.
Hi, Clement. I just want to comment on fatherhood. I have a good relationship with my father. My father treated me like a princess, and he still continues to do so. I am 34 years old, and my father still treats me like his princess. He opens the gate for me in the mornings. He starts my car. He takes out my bags. My father has been present. He was the one who used to take me to school every day, pick me up. I have this relationship with him. It is, I can't even describe it. He's been there. He's been present. Any activity that I do at school, he's there. Any parents' meeting, he's there. Any sports that I used to play, he was there. Any awards I used to receive, he was there. There is no milestone in my life that my father has not been there. He's been present in every step. I mean, I am 34 years old and he's still here. And he's still a great father. And I enjoy every moment that I have with him, and I cherish every moment that I have with him. He's growing old, but man, he's awesome. He's my dad, and I love him.
Oh.
And I wish I could do more for him. Thank you.
Oh,
Wow.
that is so heartwarming. Thank you for
is.
sending that. It's so heartwarming. Merrishia, when you have someone who grows up and dad has treated them like a princess, what I often pick up is when you are much older, nobody will ever lie to you or try to say, for you to be treated like this is what you've got to do. Because you grew up being told you are valued.
Oh,
You grew up being
absolutely.
told you don't have to do anything to try and, get people to just love and appreciate you. What's the impact of growing up with, fathers that also just constantly encourage you and reassert and tell you how much you are valued, so that later on you meet someone, it's not easy for you to be duped?
Mhm. Well, so true. That's absolutely right. And I'm so glad that this person has had such a positive impact. And what it does, it sets the standard, almost that this is who I am, and this
Yeah.
is what I should be receiving in relationships that would come after
And
my
I know
dad.
how
And-
I should be treated.
Yes, and how I should be treated. And the standard is set that I'm not going to be now taking any other nonsense, because I know what a man can give and should give. And that's absolutely wonderful, to be validated in that way, to have your self-worth and your self-esteem encouraged consistently throughout your life. So it gives such an important aspect for someone to know who they are and how they should be treated. And in this case, has this woman has said, this is who I am, and I know I've been treated like this, and this is what I'd want. And that's important. It's important for children to feel that throughout their lives, so that when they do engage in other relationships, whatever their relationships would look like, they would have that understanding, they can also have the red flags that come up, that this is not the way it should be, because I've had a positive relationship and I know what it's like.
Yeah. Let's take Phil, who's calling from Waterkloof. Phil, good morning.
Good morning, Brother Clement and your learned guest. The fatherhood is a role, motherhood is a role. There are some families where the mother is playing both the father and the mother role. Now, as fathers, how do we take into account those particular changing roles? Father is somebody who is in other settings, they say is a provider, the leader, the guiding person who empowers, who is teaching a child a future that is not going to be completely out of kilter from what the child is going to become. Now, as a father, when we want to celebrate Father's Day, we need to impart knowledge that will also assist those mothers that are present, to say that father is somebody who is parenting, knowing very well that parenting is a prayer, parenting is a mission. Parenting is a challenge, but parenting can be a joy. Parenting is a trial and error. Now, in assisting those mothers who are playing that particular role, is that we should produce new types of children, the androgynous children, with both the trait of a boy and a girl at the same time. When you teach your daughter even some of the masculine and the feminine roles, traits, and behavior, because we are not sure what that child is going to become later on in life. So even whatever that we are doing into the house, we should bear in mind, prefer a child what that child is going to be in the future. I wish all the fathers a happy Father's Day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil. And to you as well, if you're a father. Phil in Waterkloof. Craig in Johannesburg, good morning. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Clement. How are you?
Good.
Sorry, brother.
Good. Go ahead, man.
Man, it's so cold. Okay, a quick one. Clement, number one is that I am a father, I am a grandfather, and obviously I had my father who had taught me many things. Yeah, he had passed away last year, but he left some significant traits of what it is to be a father. You know, Clement, I just want to remind the listeners is that, firstly, a father is a lion. A father can also be gentle. The situation we have with the generation that we have today is basically we got to learn how to, as well as raw, we can also be gentle with our kids. But what's most important for me is that our generation lacks fathers as far as guiding children. And that is why we're faced with so many social problems today. I just want to, obviously, whoever is listening to me, just be, it's okay to roar, but be a present father. That's what we're lacking today, Clement. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Craig, and that's what Garth was talking about earlier. And Garth, in fact, there's a question that came here. You were mentioning ATM dads, people who are ATM dads, and someone wanted to know about the other types of dads. So you've got the ATM dads. These are dads who, well, I'm providing money, therefore I'm being the father that I am. What are the other types of dads?
Well, I heard a lovely phrase the other day about a hide-and-seek dad, which is one, now you see him, now you don't. And that is, quite disruptive in people's lives. We've just had so many conversations with so many people, and as much as it's wonderful to hear about these positive experiences, unfortunately many people have got quite negative experiences of their dad. And this hide-and-seek dad, is he there, isn't he? He comes, but then I don't see him for a while, and then he arrives, and then he goes. So that's the hide-and-seek dad. Then you get the dad who's present, but who's present, but who's negative, either physically or emotionally. And then you get a dad who is, neither present nor active. And then you get the guy who's destructive, the violence, etc. And as Merrishia was saying, so much of what we learn as children is role modeled for us. It's not just this is what you should do.
Yeah.
So ATM, hide and seek, not there, but not. But I think we've just got to be a bit careful not to label, as I said from this research, this concept that it's just guys who couldn't care. The deadbeat dad, I hate that phrase. Because, there are a few of those guys around. We know them. But many men just don't know the knowledge. They don't know how important it is for you to be present. They don't know how to be present, as you were saying. And so, if nothing else through this campaign, I'd love us to get to a point where we can all say, do fathers matter? Absolutely they do. And that'll be the beginning point of us actually, as a society, making sure that men are more present and active. Yeah,
it's 11:31.
702.
Family Matters.
It's 23 minutes before 12 o'clock. On our Family Matters feature this morning, we are talking about the important role that fathers play. And we're talking about why they matter. We've got Dr. Garth Japhet, who is the CEO of Heartline. It's a social change organization. They've done a lot of work with fathers. And we also have Merrishia, Singh, Naicker, who is a counsellor and family therapist. I want to go to your calls now on 011-883-0702. Let's start with Zweli, who's calling from Soweto. Zweli, good morning.
Good morning, Temza.
Sure.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah,
you see, this is a very important topic that you are talking about, because what is currently happening now, the society that we are having now, that's the result of not having a father when you grow up. Because currently what happens, most of us as black men, we grow up without fathers. I can tell you that. And then when you grow up, you are expected to You start having a girlfriend, you don't know where to start in terms of how to treat a woman, being romantic and all of that. We think that giving a lady flowers is taboo. They will think that you are something else, and then you go on and then you marry this person. You are a father. You are the head of the house now. You have children. You are expected to give direction. You are expected to lead the family. You don't know where to start. You don't know anything because you've never seen it happening in front of you. So you start doing a cut and paste now, from where you've seen it, maybe from the neighbors, maybe if you have a friend also who is raised by their father, you start copying how they do it, or sometimes you get, wrong advices from the friends who also didn't have father figures in their friends. So that's a very big problem. And as black people, unfortunately, we don't believe also in mentorship, where you get a father. If you don't have a father figure in your home, to have a father figure from the society to guide you, as you grow up. I think if you can just take that direction as men, maybe black men, that would be great. Because the trend of having absent fathers, unfortunately, is continuing. It's not slowing down.
Yeah, no, true, Zweli. And trust me, it's black men across. It's men across the board, right? And Garth, maybe you can come in here about if there are fathers listening to us and they're realizing that maybe they've been ATM fathers, or they've been the hide and seek fathers, so they've not been emotionally present in their children's life. Where do they start? Because I imagine it's not too late, right? If you're still alive, you can do something to foster that relationship with your children and be a valuable father that they deserve.
Yeah, and I think what you just said there, it's never too late. Is that it doesn't matter what age you are. If your dad's still around, you actually want your dad to be present, or to be. I think as Merrishia was saying earlier, it's to be interested in you, is to know what's going on in your life, to ask you questions, to spend time, to whatever is meaningful depending on the age. If it's to attend the school functions, that woman earlier, for some reason you go to a school function, it's usually mothers there, very few dads. So I think it's this concept of spending time, not just being physically there, but actually connecting with your kid.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And I think we just got to realize as well, this is also asking mothers to allow that to happen. If your relationship's broken down with the father of your children, and you really, as parents do, care about that child, then for the sake of the child, try and create greater access for the dad. Because particularly for your unemployed dad, who, I think that's the other message to dads is, listen, we've got to, as men, get through this concept that, yes, deep in us is this concept that we need to provide. But actually our kids want us to be there. And so I think that's where guys can start. It'll never be too late. Just be there.
Yeah. Alex, you're calling from the Val. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How's it?
I'm good. I'm driving and I'm at work now, ne? And I'm listening to the topic, and the topic touched me in both sides, in a positive way, and by exposing me that I'm a failure to my son. I'm a cut and paste somebody, the on and off somebody for my son, because, since you started the topic, I'm listening to it attentively, and it's directed to me. Because of we had an argument with the mom of the child, and we are no longer in a relationship, but we must do co-parenting to a child.
Yeah.
But when you come with something new that you love for your son, and somebody discouraged you, no, don't bring the cheap stuff for my son. Don't do this and don't do that. And then, because it's a boy, I started to play hide and seek for my son, because I don't want my son to be always involved in the negative topics that he heard for me and her mom, or comparisons of things. But today, I felt that my son, where he is now, he needs to say, "Happy Father's Day, Daddy." Where is he going to say that? while me, I'm roaming around with my kids, others, and maybe he could see status, me posting with my kids, because I'm a married person with 3 kids in a marriage. And they always ask me about their brother. I'll always tell lies. So this topic today, it touches my soul somewhere. That I have a soul out there, 9-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy, but he does not see me frequently. And I'm too close with my 9-year-old boy in the house. We are so close, and it hurts me. Guys, the topic that you did today, I believe, and I'm sure, it touched the souls of guys out there. Because of sometimes we think we are making solutions while we are hating the innocent soul.
Yeah, look, Alex, I want to applaud you for the bravery to call in and be able to look at what hasn't worked, because when you are a dad and you realize this hasn't worked and it's time that I step up and be a good father to my children, that's very commendable. So thank you so much for being able to reflect on that and for calling in. Alex and the Val. Merrishia, let's pick up on what Alex says there. Sometimes it's the fight between mom and dad that then affects the relationship, either between the mother and child or the father and child. What do parents need to do? Because and so I understand how tough it can be when you are a mom and you've been betrayed by the father of your child. I understand how tough it can be to still want to sit and talk about how you're going to co-parent with this person who's betrayed you. But how important is it to try and put the child first, regardless of the pain both of you are going through, and think about this individual who's going to be impacted by the mess and the talking bad about each other? Because that looks like it's also what's happened with Alex.
Yes, absolutely. And it is such a tough one for when the relationship has broken down and when they don't want to be apart, to have to come now together and co-parent. And one of the hardest things to do is suspend your judgment on that person and to kind of just park your own feelings up on the shelf and say, okay, I'm going to take just some time to see how I can work this out for the sake of my child. And that's what you really need to think about, I think, for parents. How can I suspend whether it's, this hatred or dislike or this judgment of, you don't know what this man has done or you don't know what this woman has done, and say, let me see how I can work this out. And if it means even mediation, if you're at a place, because I've had many parents who said, I don't even want to be in the same room with that partner or with my ex, So how do you get somebody to at least mediate between the both of you? But for mom and dad to be able to say, I'm suspending it for this moment. It's not that I'm letting go of all what was done wrong to me and justifying what you did was wrong. That if I say I'm okay to speak to you now, but it's to say that I'm going to do it for the sake of my child. Yeah. Especially when you understand the impact this is going to have on your child. I'm going to take a quick ad break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Future, Maditlari, I see your calls. I'll start with you after the break. 13 minutes before
7:02.
Family Matters.
It's going up to 10 minutes before 12 o'clock. Let's rush through the calls. I want to take as many as possible and some WhatsApps. So let's start with Future, who's calling us from Johannesburg. Future, good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to everyone. Yes, my experience is quite interesting. So just as a background, my dad and my mother, they divorced when I was about 6 years old. And for the most part, I stayed with my mother and my stepfather, and he was very good to me. He treated me well. There was no problems at all. And my biological father also, we used to visit him, and he didn't have a problem at all there. So I had these two strong and supportive men in my life, So when my mother passed away about 15 years ago, nothing changed. My stepdad was still there for me. I'm now 40 years old, and funny enough, divorced myself, and I have my own children. So the relationship that I had with my father and my stepdad actually taught me that I can still be there and be present in my children's lives, whether I'm divorced or I'm still married, because my own divorce, it really hit me very hard emotionally, and I felt like giving up, on everything. But because of this foundation that I had, with these two men in my life, teaching me, I feel like my stepdad actually is more. I'm more closer to him. My biological father is like my friend. So I'll talk to him about anything. And then when there's serious stuff, I'll phone my stepdad, And today, myself, as a divorced man, I love my children. I do everything. I would do everything for them. I'm still treating them. I'm still treating the situation as if I was still there, married. I still do my own duties that I'm supposed to do, as if I'm there every day. In their lives. So I'm grateful for that. That the men that were in my life kind of like built me. We have never had a sit down to put things in perspective and break them down, but just by their being the role models, I just copied what they did.
Yeah, and as Merrishia was saying earlier, people also, the kids look at what you do as a parent. It's not just what you say. Future, good on you, man. I'm so happy to hear how an incredible father you are to your children. Maditlare in Boksburg, good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Thank you for taking my call. I just want to make a short contribution.
Yeah.
Not from my feeling and from what I've seen, how I grew up. It's like the relationship between father and children. It's also contributed to by the generational gap and the generation. I'm in my 60s now, and I won't say I never had a relationship with my father. He was good to us. Our father was an educational person. He was a teacher. He would take us to the aerodrome. He would take us to, places that teach you, to the zoo. And those are the things that other children never enjoyed, children of my age. But the funny thing is what? When you come back home, it's like we belong to two separate worlds now. I belong to my child world. He belongs to his father world. He sits in the sitting room and reads the newspaper. So it's not a comparable thing, because children of now can ask from their fathers, please go and buy me some sanitary pads. And in our days, that was taboo.
Yeah. Yes.
You wouldn't just say, your father didn't even have to know.
Yeah, even Maditla going to dad and saying, hey dad, I met someone, like back in the day, you can't do that.
You can't, and I'm talking about things that they are so personal now.
Yeah.
Everything was secret. Everything should be secretive. You don't say that. You don't.
Yeah.
But now, what I'm saying is, in general, it's not comparable. It depends on your age. I mean, the age at which you were born.
All right, Maditla in Boksburg, thank you for your contribution. Here's a question from one of our listeners on the WhatsApp line.
Hi, 702 Land. This is really a pertinent discussion that you're having, and it's pertinent to the whole world, not just our country or our continent. It's pertinent around the globe. My question to the panel is, what is your relationship with these initiation schools? Because I think these schools, we always hear some negatives in the news, but they can definitely be a strong force for good. And this could capture a lot of our kids, specifically the boys, who fall through the gaps. You're talking about good father figures. I know many people who've lost their dads at young ages, and the strong father figures from the community stepped in to help. Our saying is it takes a village to raise a child, and I think these initiation schools, your organizations, are part of this strong village that we need. Thank you.
Hi, Clement. This is Lebo from Krugersdorp. I grew up with my father being present, and he did everything for me, took care of me, and he also considered me to be his princess. And What I've learned from that is the importance of having a father in my life and the role that he played in my life. And it happened that I have 2 kids and I broke up with their father. But because I knew the importance of having a father in my life, I made sure that they stay in touch with their father. Bought them cell phones so that even if he needs to talk to them, he doesn't have to go through me. He can call them directly and make sure that he plays a role in their lives even though I am not with him anymore, so that we continue with having kids that understands the importance of having a father in their lives.
Oh, I love that. The level of maturity you need as a parent to say, you know what, differences aside, let's think about the kids. Garth, if you can respond to that question around initiation schools, because, you know, in our cultures, that's where they normally take us to go and be taught how to be a man. And I say that in inverted commas, but it also how to be a man in some of the initiation schools understanding is very different to, for instance, the kind of man I want to be and the dad I want to be. So is there space there to collaborate with these institutions so that we also redefine what being a responsible man and a dad could be?
I think absolutely. I think, you know, the the concept of a young man going through a rite of passage is actually a really good one. And in a lot of cultures around the world, you had this concept in the Jewish culture of a bar mitzvah, etc., where you transition from boyhood into adulthood. And so I think the opportunity to redefine sometimes some of the content is there. But I mean, you know, culture's not static. Culture can change over time.
It evolves, yeah.
And I think that is key. Just to mention, the woman talked about a cell phone. Part of Father's Matter are these series of 6 films that are on SABC at the moment. They're little half-hour films. There's one called In Time, which is where a dad is a migrant laborer, but he is there in his child's life because he phones her all the time.
Yeah.
And that's being present but not physically present.
Yes. I'll be tweeting their Father's Matter program. So go check it out on my Twitter @TheRealClement. Dr. Garth, Japhet, Merrishia, Singh, Naicker, thank you so much, guys, for making time.